Do it again. Buttons are hard. Good evening and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 58, where it's going to be all Elon all the time.
Oh, man.
This week in Elon, we'll see. Plus some other stuff. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm William Silver. Anyone?
Go.
You want me to go? Okay, and me.
We go clockwise. Come on. We're in the West.
Oh, well, I'm Greg Williams, and unfortunately I'm hearing this from everywhere because my Twitch stream popped up, so I'm hearing like 1,000 times.
Oh boy, yeah. Everything everywhere all at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's Gray Williams. And then we have one of these kids is tweeting their own thing.
I just introduced myself.
I know, but who's the last lady?
I said I introduced myself.
Oh, at the same time, I'm so confused. I'm so
Before
confused.
Gray.
Okay, fine. I have the power of the button and I shall not be constrained.
Yeah, start again. You go, Tristan.
We're all good. We've all introduced ourselves.
This is like one of those Star Trek episodes where they're just in the time loop.
Exactly. There is the theory of the Mobius.
Oh, God.
Okay, so if you want to find out more about this poop show, follow us at, or you can find out more at Momentus.tv. Follow us at Facebook.com/MomentusTV, Twitter.com/MomentusTV, Instagram.com/Momentus.tv, and on YouTube, search my name and look for the Momentous playlist. To start off, we've got a few quick follow-up things, but I just want to acknowledge the fact that we've got the whole band back together again. It's always a great feeling. Gray was not able to join us. There's a late issue last week. Now, without getting too deep into it, Gray, there was a bit of, you had a bit of an emergency in your neighborhood. There was another emergency yesterday. I just wanted to ask what you're doing and what your recommendations are for personal safety, bug out bag type stuff, should the poop hit the fan, that kind of thing, given that it seems like in your neighborhood and others, there are others around the world too, Ukraine, where sometimes people, they don't feel safe or they need to, get out of Dodge sooner rather than later. And I know there's also something you're wearing on your person as well. Do you mind just maybe in like 60 seconds or less, give us a quick little overview of your approach to some various challenges that you're have been experiencing lately?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we did was picked up an emergency kit from 72hours.ca. They carry emergency kits that are designed for earthquake or disasters, and so that's got water and whatnot in there. Personal safety, like on the block, I started wearing a body cam. And it's interesting because these things have really come down in price. 1440p does night vision. It's a one-touch record. The reason I started doing this is because we started to see that people were being hurt in the neighborhood, but also being a white male-appearing human being. Unfortunately, folks usually think that I'm tough, and so
you're pretty tough.
I am pretty tough, but it's when someone wants to rail against somebody, you pick on the guy who's trying to get into his house, and so we've had a couple of things in the last little while, and it's been a little bit on the rough side, and really just the camera's kind of an interesting one because as soon as people see the flashing light, they tend to kind of turn away, and so it's interesting because there's just a power light on it, which people think is the record light, so you don't actually need to be recording anything. You can just sort of like, if someone's doing something they shouldn't be doing, which unfortunately tends to be, smoking drugs in a place where they're not supposed to. There's actually OPS sites that are quite close, which are a better choice as well, because with the amount of tainted drugs that we've got going on, if someone overdoses and you're not around, they're gone. If they're an OPS, they'll live.
What's the model of body cam that you're using, the make and model there?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Over to Amazon I go.
And this is where on the teleprompter it would normally say vamp.
This was the Aolbea 1440p UHD police body cam with built-in 64 gigabytes. It's waterproof.
AO what?
Aolbea. Aolbea.
Okay.
And it was on sale for $90, I think.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. I think we've got it up here. This is the US site, but you can do the math in your head. Yeah, I remember because you shared with us a photo last week when you weren't able to join us, and at first I thought, is that like a stun gun or what is that thing? It looks pretty. Or is that like is that a new model gaming mouse?
Which I am in the market for.
There you go.
It's funny, actually. I'm going to show you this. This is my treat to myself this week. So Destiny, in conjunction with SteelSeries, made a mouse pad.
Is there a link?
Yeah, let's do this here real quick. Whoops, I just threw that on the other monitor.
Amongst yourselves.
Well, and so this is kind of the things that are, because basically I've had a lot of this, gaming gear for a really long time, and the batteries are starting to go. Mm-hmm. And headsets. Something actually happened in headsets this week. HyperX released a 300-hour gaming headset.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a 10x over anybody else, and apparently it's legit.
All right, we'll get the link from you on the other bits and pieces after, but I just thank you for sharing us a little bit there. It doesn't hurt, whether it's heat domes or atmospheric rivers or invasions or, local issues, crime and whatnot. Here we go. It came in. It's
beautiful.
And what this is the mouse pad, and that's for personal security and self-defense. Is that?
It is, yeah, because you can roll it up and smack somebody with it.
Perfect. All right, well, send me the link over, and we'll include that in the show notes.
You said gaming mouse, we got there.
Exactly. That's what we do. The tangents. So let's get to our follow-up. We've got a few bits and pieces from previous weeks that we thought we would touch on real quick. One last summer, I think it was. We all got giddy with excitement, except maybe the other person wearing glasses here, about the new $750 self-transforming Optimus Prime. Well, I'll have you know it's time to introduce the Optimus Prime trailer that goes along with it, and for the low price also of $750. So if you've got more money than brains, I mean, if you made money in crypto, we're not doxing you to Canada Revenue Agency.
Yeah.
But here's the kind of thing that you might want to purchase for yourself or your loved ones for Christmas time. Let's start with your reaction, Tasia, because I'm sure you're the most interested in this.
You know me, I'm an adult and I just don't get it. So I'm like...
Oh, so Tasia, I meant Will, yes, transform.
It's the price. Y'all know I'm too cheap for that.
Yes, but look at it.
Ridiculous.
It's auto-converting trailer and roller set to go along with your auto-converting Optimus Prime.
I have
if you
to
have
say,
the money, it's pretty cool.
It's expensive, but I get the Optimus. I do think the trailer lacks a little pizzazz for $750. It's not.
It's 3 feet in length.
It's not as interesting to me as the Optimus, but
yes.
If you're a company, you already have the $750 Optimus, why not just throw down $750 more? For me, it wouldn't be worth it.
Double down.
But if I had the spare cash rolling around, I would definitely buy the Optimus.
Well, when there's opportunity costs with all those vintage Vestax mixers, right?
Yeah.
And, you redirect some of those funds. You could have 18 servo motors, 60 microchips, and over 2,000 components. Not to mention a radio control little thing that pops out the back. It looks like a baby Cybertruck. You can drive that around using your smartphone too.
Here's the other thing: is I had an Optimus, and this is like the original, right? The original trailer with all the little things and bit bobs in there. I never liked the trailer that much. I always thought that it was kind of lame. So again, I just think it lacks a little bit of the pizzazz. But if you're a completist, if you're a true blue, gotta have it authentic, you're gonna buy this.
Gray, is this another symptom of late-stage capitalism?
You know what? The thing here is, well, two things. One, Elon introduced his Optimus robots, which leads me to believe that the man actually just is farming pop culture for names. And that's
Yes.
that's kind of where he's at this point. But the one thing that so you guys remember G.I. Joe? They kind of ran, parallel
I'm a
to
huge G.I. Joe fan. Yeah.
So you might remember that the aircraft carrier came out in 1985, right?
Yeah, the flag.
It's $110. Yeah. And so it was $110. Adjusted for inflation, that is $300 today. So you're halfway to a transforming Optimus Prime, and it doesn't transform. I don't think this is that unreasonable. Do I want one? Yes. Will I get one? I can hear Ray hating me from downstairs.
Yes.
No.
This is a problem when you're married or have a partner.
No. There's no way this would find its way into my home. No.
Problem will or keeping you in check? Just like maybe.
It's interesting. It's like I love my tchotchkes, but I don't love my tchotchkes. And so I think, did I tell you the story of my Destiny Witch Queen Collector's Edition?
I don't think so.
It showed up.
We haven't had a Destiny reference yet this week, so you better. Oh, there it is.
Nice.
So here's the funny thing.
Nightmares.
I bought this in August. It was supposed to ship in February. They shipped it to Cape Verde. Cape Verde is one notch above Canada on the drop down. They shipped it to Vancouver, Cape Verde. It took them 4 months to get it to me. And the reason that you got the tchotchke is because it actually has a story attached to it. There's not. That's why they couldn't deliver it. Yeah. So that's my anger for the week.
That's why you avoid drunk e-commerce, Gray. How many times do I have to tell you?
No. On the order, it was correct. On the shipping label, it was incorrect.
Oh boy.
Not my fault. Bungie.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So we got our first Destiny reference. We got our first Elon reference. So we're going to get to Elon eventually. But our next tangential story has to do with Twitter. Last week we were discussing the little to and fro with the poop posting by Twitter itself on April Fool's Day, saying they're working on on the edit button, and then the whole stuff with Elon announcing his investment in Twitter, just under 10% of Twitter's outstanding shares, and then the whole thing about him being offered a board seat, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to get to revisit that in a minute. But some people are wondering, well, what is it? We've been asking for a Twitter edit button for years and years. Why haven't they done it? Jack Dorsey, one of the co-founders and former CEO twice of Twitter, has pushed back on that a couple of times, talking about the technical issues behind having an edit button for Twitter. So as our resident Twitter correspondent, Teja Custodi, who has in the past had little birds on the inside, what is your take on the current state of the Twitter button? Because it sounds like it's getting closer and closer to actual reality. Twitter itself confirmed after the Elon stuff last week that they are indeed working on an edit button. How could it actually work? Despite the protestations of Jack Dorsey and others.
Yeah, I think their plan right now is to, once they get it figured out, is to roll it out on like Twitter Blue. So I don't know if like the masses are actually going to see it anytime soon, because Twitter's really struggling with like, why should people pay for this platform that they've had for free? So they're trying to entice people with goodies. Last week, interestingly enough, we mentioned that like we were so worried about misinformation, and that's everybody's big concern when it comes to adding an edit button on Twitter, not just for, at the top level, but like if you reply to something and then that person that did the initial tweet completely changes the context. And then I mentioned that it would be neat if they used AI to allow for somebody to change, say, a letter or a word, but not context of a message, because that's really where you're going to get into some poop. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what they're wondering now, is like, are they going to do it in that kind of level where they work? And the one example in this article that you're showing was saying, if you wrote live instead of love, and the AI could understand you were trying to just change that word to love, and you're not changing the context of your message. But it's going to be really interesting to see how they do it, or if they do it in a way like we talked about last week, in terms of, does it say edited? Is there a revision history? Then you get into the issues of who's actually going back that far into a revision history to see, so it's a whole can of worms. But basically, that's all we know right now is they're probably going to roll it out to Twitter Blue first. And we're going to see what it actually looks like.
Can I say something about the edited? I obviously, if that means getting the edit button, that's great. I know that in some things like Slack, spelling problems, and sometimes I sit right away and I go and edit it, and I'm like, oh no, that's like a mark of shame. People are gonna know that I went in there and edited it. I just want this to be seamless. It never happened.
So then and in Slack, can you delete a message in there and then just repost it, or
you can?
Is that visible as well?
Delete a message. Yeah.
So as you allude to, there other platforms have introduced edit features. Facebook's had it for ages. Gmail has like a delayed send thing, which is a similar idea. And Twitter again went halfway with this, with a similar notion too, where it gives you a chance to recall a message before it goes out. It's just having that little bit of a delay there. I think some of the issues that Jack Dorsey had been talking about when we touched on last week was because it had to do with the federated nature of the content dispersal of a given tweet, and on various through the content delivery network across the world, and getting all that version of the message in sync everywhere. I think a lot of people are generally forgiving if you have an edit button there, and maybe with the compromise like Tasia mentions of having limited changes. Some people have also mentioned having a time window where you can edit it within the first 5 minutes. So a message is only going to go so far, in terms of retweets and things and comments and things like that. So we'll see what actually comes to pass. But we've had the edit button on Facebook for a long time. However, that being said, apparently it has proven to be problematic, and it's even more so with Twitter because the velocity is so much greater, and it's kind of in some ways the de facto statement of record in a sense. And that's. If people want to go back in time and cancel it due to your past tweets, is it based on your originals or your corrected ones? Who knows, right? So, Gray, any thoughts on the technical or even social implications of a Twitter edit button should it come to pass?
I don't really want one.
You don't want one?
I don't want one. I really like Twitter Blue. I like the window to go and I've got 60 seconds and I can oh yeah, no, I forgot a word here, forgot a word there. I forgot to write the tweet entirely, that kind of thing. So that's good. Mm-hmm. But there's something about it being immutable. There's something about it not being changeable.
I feel some blockchain coming on.
The AI thing of I don't see that as an edit. I see that as it's a copy polish. But and I think that should be fine. But anything further than that, I don't think it should be an edit button. I think it should be an auto revise. Do you want to change this, this, this? Yeah, great, cool, great, done. You don't get to choose. It proposes changes and then
it's like Grammarly.
Yeah.
Well, they should just
make it needlessly complex, and people will just start getting better at spelling.
All right. Well, the other big Twitter news that we talked about last week was Elon Musk's taking a just less than 10% stake in Twitter and being offered a seat on the board of directors. And as a director, he would be limited to just over 14% ownership. And then over the weekend, apparently it all kind of fell apart. No one's exactly sure why. Did he decline his board seat because they were doing in Twitter's tweet about it? They they alluded to background checks and whatnot. And would Elon be disqualified because of some previous shenanigans and disciplinary action by the SEC because of his own Twitter behavior? Elon Musk is obviously a huge lover and user of the product, and he has a lot of fun on there, just like lots of people do with poop posting and whatnot. So is this opening the door for him to actually acquire more than 14% of Twitter? And I mean, he could buy the whole thing. They're basically what he paid for his stake of Twitter right now is equivalent, based on his entire net worth, is equivalent to a normal person buying a laptop. So all he needs to do, so if he bought the entirety of Twitter, if he could, that would be like 9 more laptops. Is this part amazing of the play? And what would an Elon Musk owned Twitter look like, Tasia?
I think it might be part of the play, you guys. Like, which I love him. It scares me a little bit, but I love him. So
there's good Elon and bad Elon, right? Which one is coming out to play?
No,
Because he's
no.
firmly in that chaotic neutral, so he goes both ways.
Yes, and he could change his mind and say something one day, and then the next day, poof, opposite. So it's really hard to say, but that's kind of what everybody's thinking right now, is this is his kind of long shot play. But I do wonder too, like, because Twitter has implemented a couple other interesting features in the like since he kind of claimed his 10% stake. And I do wonder, like, was this stuff they were always going to do, or was he like, you really should implement these things, like, let's do this now, like, let's go, and just kind of threw, you know, his weight behind it. So it's interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think if he owned it? Like, what would happen to the platform?
Well, Gray, having rediscovered your affection for Twitter in the last 1 year and a half, how do you feel about the prospects of an Elon Musk who may be become an activist of investor, if not a board member, like having influence in different ways? Because as a board member, you're really constrained. There's things you can't say. When you're not a board member and you're just a rich guy who owns a big part of a company, you know, you can just say whatever you want and try to exert influence that way, Carl Icahn style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Twitter really doesn't benefit from megalomaniacs trying to run the company, and Trump did for 5 years. So, you know, by proxy, I guess. It's interesting. It's like Twitter, it feels like it was laboring under Jack. You know, it seemed like he had a singular vision, but couldn't really elucidate it to anybody. And like, it just seemed like they were just accumulating technical debt and slowing down. And now they have an IT guy who's actually running it. And it seems like the platform is moving forwards. You know, it feels like Elon might actually advocate for features. And if that's something that he can do, and they're features,
he's a product guy, right? So that checks out. Yep.
Yeah, so I feel like that's probably where he wants to take this. I don't see the man looking to control content. He's had a couple of really nasty bouts. You know, he's the kid that was following his plane around. I blocked him. So he's not an arbiter of good decisions as far as what content should be allowed. And God forbid that ever happens, I'll jump ship immediately. But if he does seem to see the gaps. He's like Steve Jobs that way. Right, just like what's missing from this, and you know, the edit button they were working on already. But I'd be interested to see from maybe like a trends mapping perspective, or you know, a discovery perspective. Where is he thinking? Because I think that's probably where it is. Did I show you guys my Twitter profile pic?
I've seen it, but I don't think you've officially shared it on the stream here.
Do we want to share it on the stream here? I can bring it up. Oh, okay.
Mr. Hexagon.
So when you click on that,
view NFT details.
It's my in real life Dungeons and Dragons character sheet.
So there we go, Hunter. Look at that.
Right. Why did I do this? Because I could. And I'm sure it made some people angry somewhere. Anyway, enough of that.
You're almost like orc-like in there with the color. Is that a projection over your face, or is that a filter? What's going on there?
A little trollish, you might say.
Little troll? I see what you did there. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Will, how do you feel about the influence of Elon Musk, Chaos Monkey?
Chaos Muppet.
Chaos Muppet, sorry, yes, Chaos Muppet. Because if Twitter did say there could be disruptions ahead. So,
yeah, I mean,
do you just get in your popcorn, or what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a monkey with a revolver. I mean, some good things could come of it, and some bad things could come of it. You know, I think I'm not a huge fan of Elon. I mean, he certainly has achieved some things, and he, like you guys say, he's a bit of a master of finding holes or gaps in a technology or in society, and filling it
and
with
marshaling
ideas
resources
actually,
to fill those gaps.
Yeah, and for someone who actually, as you guys have read and watched and listened to a bunch of podcasts on Elizabeth Holmes, I find it very interesting. In some ways, he's sort of the anti-Elizabeth Holmes. He's actually achieved a lot of things, and he has ideas, but he's been able to follow through on them and listen to people, at least the smart people who are able to implement them, and he understands them, which all those things Elizabeth had a lot of trouble with. So I mean, I appreciate it from that aspect, that he has followed through on his visions. I think some of the things that he has said, like you were saying, that the kid following his plane, his comment about the rescue of the Thai boys, you know, there's things that he said that have been seriously distasteful and not helpful. So that's where it's sort of like watching a car accident, and I just don't want to see the tragedy at the end of it. So I hope he does well. But I wouldn't say he would be the first one I'd pick to run one of the world's biggest information disseminators.
Would you prefer him over Zuckerberg running Facebook?
Could we have them fight to the death?
Yeah. Two nerds enter, one shall leave.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to good Elon news then. Before it's interesting. This whole Twitter news kind of overshadowed some previous, more fascinating announcements and news from Tesla. But one of which was a video that was posted one of those POV drone videos. This one's it's sped up a little bit. I hope flying in and around the I believe it's the Gigafactory in Berlin-Brandenburg. And if you've never seen POV drone footage before, it's these it's like a traditional drone, except you're wearing a headset. So GRAYE would probably be well suited to that, and you pilot it just as if you you're inside the drone, and it gives you different perspective, and there's very fine-tuned controls there. And this video, there are a couple of edit points in here, but it takes you literally inside the guts of the Gigafactory in Europe, which is the kind of thing that apparently Tesla doesn't have an official PR department, but they seem to be pretty good at releasing things that get people talking, just like Elon himself gets people talking on Twitter. Any thoughts on this video? Let's start with you, Will.
I thought, wasn't there another one that we saw where I thought was more impressive? Maybe it was somewhere else where they were flying.
Hard to please.
It was like a brewery, maybe. I can't remember.
Yes, yeah. There was one that went into a bowling alley, and that's right.
There was one that was a little bit more impressive. Also, the cut points. I found the speeding up kind of distracting. I think I would have liked to seen it a little less zhuzhed. But yeah, no, impressive. I think it's cool to see around. Flew into one of the cars at one point. I think that's pretty cool. So there's definitely some cool stuff here.
And GRAYE, Tasia, anything to add to this before we move on to what followed this?
It feels like they're using the rule of cool. Just like, is this badass? Yeah, then let's put it out.
Yeah.
It'll do
That's what he's all about, though. That's exactly how he operates.
Just really like the
cool. Let's fly a drone through the machine. Yeah. Great, done.
Could we have flames at some point, or a Gatling gun?
I'm sure it's coming. I mean, we're talking about the person who released a Tesla branded, not a flamethrower, and the person who shot an original Tesla Roadster into space. It's all this stuff, but it's like that stunt marketing kind of thing that gets people talking, and it's legitimately cool to watch. Tasia, do you buy it? Are you falling for this? I mean, sounds like you're kind of in the bag for Elon anyway. But when you see videos like this, is this just too over the top, or is this just solidifying?
No, it's great because it's just like, what other car company does this shit? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, like, in all the stuff we talk about him doing and stuff like that. So, but besides the coolness of it all, it is just neat to go see inside the manufacturing of that, and like inside a machine. Like, who else would get that perspective? Even if you toured the factory, you don't get to go like in the machine.
And that's one of the things that I know that some of us here have talked about in our various digital media classes we've conducted, that one of the things that you can do with online video is open the kimono a little bit, so to speak, and show people in the public a little bit of a world that they would never see on their own, traditionally. And that could be, what an accountant does day to day, or a barista, or it could be what they do in a massive electric car factory. It's just that little insight and sharing. Of course, they always make sure they're not exposing any trade secrets or anything like that. But I think that's one of the things that captivates people about it. It's just not your everyday sort of thing. It's why TV shows like Dirty Jobs and Ice Road Truckers are popular too. But this is at a different type of velocity, being on YouTube and being shared through social media. So that was a bit of a precursor to the event that was held last week, before the Twitter, the second part 2 of the Twitter shenanigans. I don't like. Does Elon sleep at all? I mean, with all the different companies he's got going on, this Twitter stuff, the Tesla's like, come on. So Elon donned a cowboy hat last week to have the grand sort of official launch of the Gigafactory in Austin, Texas, and they teased the new Cybertruck, slightly updated version of the Cybertruck. It's got side view mirrors now to be compliant. They claim to be releasing it next year. And there wasn't a ton of content. The pre-show was kind of interesting. They had an amazing drone light show at the beginning too, and before that there was just sort of a demo reel of all the recapping a bunch of things that Tesla's been doing. And in the keynote address himself, which apparently was open to all sorts of people. I think there was a lot of employees there, but I think other people were invited as well, like Tesla owners. So there was a lot of applause, and we can see Elon with his cowboy hat, and just really going full Texas. And they talked a little bit about Optimus, which is the Tesla robot that GRAYE alluded to. And the semi truck Roadster, which they've been talking about for years, but hopefully the updated version of the Roadster. So it was sort of an overview, but really almost like a pep rally or a bit of a recruitment show, from what I understand as well, just helping get people excited about what Tesla's up to. As mentioned in the drone show beforehand, there was some pretty neat stuff. We've seen, I'm not sure who was responsible for the drone light show in this case. I know Intel's done quite a bit, and we saw some at the Beijing Olympics in China. But in addition to showing off drone light versions of vehicles such as the Model 3 and the Cybertruck, eventually we got to a couple of memes that were displayed as well. And wait for it, it's actually the hero image of the of today's episode. See what we got here?
Yeah, Doge dog or whatever.
It's Doge, of course. So Elon's they're just trolling in a sense. And then after the Doge Shiba Inu, then they ended with another meme here, which it's the haha yes meme, which is sort of a nihilistic, life is meaningless and everything is terrible. But I just express myself through memes at this point. It's the haha yes. It's a what is it? Not a hedgehog, right? So that one was actually new to me. There it is. Haha, yes. So it's just like, you're trolling people with memes, and then you're trolling the memes. It's memes all the way down at this point. Again, this is a grown-ass man and the richest man in the world, with head of some remarkable organizations, including Tesla. And that's what we get. So there's the 1 hour long actual keynote and preamble, and then there's the 8-minute supercut that you can watch if you don't want to sit through the whole thing too. Starting with you, GRAYE, what are some impressions that you took away from either the highlights or what you actually managed to see of the event itself?
Well, I mean, the big thing for me, I'm just going to see if I can bring this up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
There we are. Yeah, let's see if I can throw this one at you.
Oh, you're gonna?
Nope, I want that. There we go. So
there was some nice music throughout as well. So there's Elon riding in on his horse. Oh no, that's not Elon on a horse. That's a woman on a horse, and galloping through a field, surrounded by Teslas. Say again. Oh, you got something here
for you there.
Screen share. Here we go. Whoop.
So who wore a doucher?
Oh, was that Jeff Bezos?
That's Jeff Bezos. Cowboy hats on billionaires is my least liked trend of 2022.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tap out on the cowboy hats on billionaires for now.
Gotcha.
Lots of really great stuff that came out of this. We saw Optimus seems very interesting because, I've gone on about universal basic income before. We've talked about how the robots are going to steal your jobs. This literally, he said, the jobs that humans don't want to do, which, would probably include things like Minesweeper, Optimus will do. But is there really, when you take a look at the vast amount of human labor that goes on the planet right now, most people don't like their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the labor doesn't cost anything because the robot's been built and it keeps running, we've got to repair the robots at some point, but maybe we'll get robots to repair the robots. This could be the end of capitalism as we know it, as it evolves into the next thing, because capitalism can't survive with the vast majority of us out of work. So fascinating to see Elon just drop that little tidbit on there. Cybertruck, he promised that it would be coming. I've still got a $150 reservation on that. I feel like I should put that into Bitcoin, but what can you do?
Tasia.
Hi.
Sorry.
Poppy was going crazy. She startled me. I was like, there's somebody in the house. Nope. Okay. What I was going to say was the biggest thing I took away from this whole thing was just, if we talk about the drone thing for a second, the reason I love the trolling so much is just because, again, what other boss of all these crazy companies that are legit changing the world is just so duh, this is what I was here to do. You know what I mean? Duh, y'all make it look so difficult. It's easy. He's just throwing his money towards stuff that matters. But the thing I like the most I take away is just, with these gigafactories and stuff, it's just that one in Texas alone, I think is going to create 10,000 jobs. And, he's investing $10 billion or something like that into that gigafactory. So it can be huge for a community, and it can be huge for a town's infrastructure and everything. And I just love that. Mm-hmm. But I'm biased.
That's okay. We all come with our priors. Will, from what you've seen from the highlights or write-ups on the what's the event called, the Cyber Rodeo? They're going all Texas, right? What are your thoughts or impressions, either from the presentation or from some of the some of the things that were discussed, factory-wise, vehicle-wise?
Yeah, so I think it's exciting that they're opening factories and creating new jobs. I think part of this is bringing manufacturing and some of these industries back to North America. There's a lot of talk about green energy and battery factories and all that being built in Ontario and things like that. So I think it's all great. Do as Gray said, without the douchery, without the 10-year-old boy dressing up. But as I said, this is who he is. He's being him. He's being his authentic self. Robots are cool as well. I to Gray's point, I hope it either doesn't create the next robot overlords, or B, tank the economies. So
he actually mentioned that. He said we're trying to avoid the Terminator scenario.
Yes,
trying to avoid. Yes. Asimov enshrined it in the laws that were the basis of the robots. We're just trying to avoid it. We're hoping not to get to a Terminator scenario.
Because a few years ago, he was even like talking about the dangers of AI too. So this is something like I mean, even though he appears flippant online, he is a pretty thoughtful guy and has an engineering mindset about this, and has said for the better part of a decade, the reason for Tesla even existing is to get us off of fossil fuels, climate change, blah 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 blah. So even with some of the ways this thing is, this factory in Austin, Texas, has been designed with everything under one roof. It's almost like system on a chip package, like comparable to what Apple's doing with their actual processors. It's interesting how we describe that. And also by building these gigafactories around the world. There's one in Shanghai. We mentioned the one in Berlin, a couple in North America. He's trying to get the production closer to where the cars are being delivered. And he mentioned getting them, not having to put them on ships, sending them around the world. Sorry, please go on. Well,
can I add something which is a little bit of an aside? As I mentioned last week, my wife is playing Lego Star Wars, enjoying it very much. There was something that came out earlier in the week where, for the sake of good and what is moral, they decided when making the game that you could not kill a Padawan, a young Padawan. You could not kill a youngling. But what happens as a result is you get shot backwards. So people are realizing that this is a game exploit and using it to do super jumps and go places that they're not supposed to go, or get coins that they're not supposed to go. So the best laid plans of mice and men. So hopefully these safeguards are well thought through and the consequences are thought through.
Gotcha.
All he's doing really is just setting up a genetic engineering division so he can genetically engineer John Connor. That's the safety net.
Yes.
That's it.
You got to have your fail-safe for sure. Gray, one of the things that they're doing with the manufacturing here, and they've tweaked the design of the Model Y, the way the battery packs are built, to actually become a more integral part of the structure in order to reduce weight. So the battery, the pack element below there is more part of the body now. Do you think this is a step in the right direction for efficiency? Do you think there's going to be some unintended consequences when it comes to things like accidents and whatnot? Are you confident in this approach?
So the way that they've described it from an engineering perspective is like energy distribution in a crash actually is directed away from the battery. So hopefully this is actually a little bit more robust. And I mean, basically like 3 cast pieces making up this vehicle is something that's never been done. And it's a fascinating way to look at it. It feels very Johnny Ive, but like early Johnny Ive, not like crazy. It's got to be thinner Johnny Ive. So
how thin can we get this car?
Right?
Let's just take out the seats.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the keyboard's not very good.
So I mean, like looking at this is actually, when you take a look at Tesla's history and some of the things that they did, things like the retractable door handle and whatnot, we've talked about it before on the show, like it was kludge. And it was kludge to get to a point where there was no longer kludge. And now they're actually starting to step up into what is just like absolutely peak level manufacturing. I'm very impressed with this. So I'm curious to see, like, because really what you're getting is you're getting savings in materials, savings in cost, savings in time. This is a virtuous cycle. And so, this was the next step for them, and glad to see it. I wonder what's next after this.
Right?
They're just pouring it into a mold and they're just one and done.
I'm sure there's more to come. Speaking of door handles, one of the updated features of the Cybertruck, and I guess it's in the interest of aerodynamics, since they got to get every bit they can with that odd polygonal shape they've got there, is they've got no door handles whatsoever. They've got sensors and cameras. You just walk up to the door and it opens for you. That's apparently how it's supposed to work. So again, these are great ideas. We'll see how they actually function in practice. Because I know that even with current things, when you have a key fob in your pocket, sometimes with cars as they are today, like, sometimes you push the button and it doesn't behave like you expect it to. And especially every car has its own approach. Some of them unlock automatically. Some they just detect you and you still have to push the button. Muscle memory gets all screwed up. So imagine getting used to a door just opening for you, and then you go to drive someone else's car and you just like walk into the side of the car.
Well, horror movies, right? You scrabble for the handle, and that's done now.
Exactly.
We don't get to do that.
So that was the Cyber Rodeo. And again, just putting cyber in it, alluding to Cybertruck, and even just the naming of the Cybertruck and this event itself, just dredging up a word that was kind of big in the 90s when we were talking about cyberspace and whatnot. There's just so many things there. Anyway, so we touched on the updated version of the Tesla Model Y, which in addition to the reconfigured battery packs, they say it'll have bigger batteries and it'll be a bit cheaper, but initially it will only be available to employees. So, yeah, they're refining, and that's the way it's always been. And they don't release model years. Like, it's just they're always tweaking and improving the vehicles as they go. So there's no, it's kind of hard to tell Tesla's apart, like, unless you're looking for very close details. And it's in an interesting way, it's almost somewhat democratizing as much as you can call cars as 50 grand and up democratizing. But there's like the Model 3 when it came out, that's the one that doesn't actually say what it is. There's no Model 3 badge. So even though it's the entry level one, it's not like, oh, is this a Model S or a Model X? You've got this thing, and we're not broadcasting to the world that you've got the entry level one. It's just another Tesla out there, and you get to enjoy the Tesla halo effect. The Y is proving to be a monster because it's smaller than the X, but it's got that crossover utility to it. So yeah, more to come. I'm sure it's going to be only a couple more weeks before we get some more stunt marketing from Tesla. But believe it or not, there are other electric vehicles that have right?
No.
That we're getting bits and pieces of information as the time goes on. We've got the 2022 Lucid Air Grand Touring Performance. So have any Lucid vehicles hit the market yet, and they're already announcing more models? Like this one, with over 1,000 horsepower, trying to give the Tesla Model S Plaid a run for its money. Is Lucid real or is it vaporware?
That's real.
Oh,
yeah,
not as real as Rivian. What's that?
So it just goes so fast you can't see them.
Exactly.
I mean, you're talking about obviously like the niche of niche markets with these guys, right?
This is a $150,000 car, like US.
Yeah, they're being hand built by one guy.
He should really get some time off.
Just give the. I mean, the thing is, like, Lucid's obviously kicking up a lot of steam. To take the analogy really backwards, but Lucid, Lotus. We're going to see the era of the electric supercar now. It's a thing, and I imagine anybody that loves the rumble of a V8. Sorry, but this is kind of the thing, like Car and Driver and all this sort of stuff. Like I like the sexy fast vehicles, but I've got to the point in my life where I'm like, that does nothing for me because I want to go camping. So I can't really be that excited. I'm sorry.
So I have to correct myself that Lucid Air Grand Touring was $180,000 US.
Oh,
you mentioned the Lotus. This was announced a couple of weeks ago. The Eletre, Eletre SUV riding on Lotus's new electric premium architecture platform. So it's I think what's nice, again, we've talked about this before, seeing more non-Tesla offerings. So of course the Lucid Air and the Lotus here are reaching for the upper end of the market, but they're not the only ones playing in this space. It's there's that halo effect. That's the one thing I can say about Tesla, is that they succeeded in making EVs cool, right? Like the GM EV1, which was the subject of Who Killed the Electric Car, and GM's initial foray and experiment into modern day electric cars, as opposed to the ones that came out around in the early 1900s. The EV1 was a big old dorkmobile, right? Like it was so Tesla definitely sets things up, and they to prove the point, they again Tasia, I'm sure do you want to share with everyone what they did with their model names to make a word? The Model S. the Model 3, which is a backwards E because they couldn't do Model E because of BMW's copyrights. The Model X and the Model Y, what does that spell?
What?
It's sexy.
It's sexy.
Yeah. Elon,
what are you talking about?
So Tesla, they have released the Model S, the Model 3, which they were going to call it the Model E, but they couldn't because of BMW. They got the Model X and the Model Y. And he even mentioned in the keynote, and this has been a thing, like another classic Elon troll. We've got 4 vehicles and they spell sexy. It's like, who does that?
I know.
Amazing. I misunderstood what you said. I was like, what? Model 3 does not spell sexy backwards. Like, I was like, what?
Sorry.
It's okay. We're bringing this back.
Exactly. So we've got, Lucid Air, we've got Lotus, and again, the irony being Lotus was a partner in the manufacture of the original Tellus Roadster. All the non-EV components were designed by Lotus there. But now we've got another Nissan offering, the 2023 Nissan Ariya, which is a little bit more accessible, prioritizing style over performance. So what if you want to pay 100 to 180 grand for a fancy electric car, you can. But if you want something a little bit more practical from a trusted name, well, you can go with something like the Nissan Ariya. And then just in the past few days, we've got the 2023 Toyota BZ4X. What do they call it? Electric relaxation, wild looks, and mild performance. So the great thing about all these other players finally getting into the game, like Toyota's even though Toyota, they were early to hybrids, they've been late to pure EVs, is we're getting a diversity of offerings. Some are pursuing performance, some are pursuing range, and some are pursuing kind of like the Buick comfortable ride, not too exciting to drive, but will get you from A to B, and maybe let the kids fall asleep while you're at it. Tasia, so of these 4 latest ones that we've looking at, which one has the most appeal to you? I know you're a Corvette gal at heart, and we'll see when a Corvette EV finally arrives. But would this Toyota offering be a little too pedestrian to you, or one of the others pique your interest?
If I'm picking anything other than a Tesla, I would maybe pick a Toyota. The only thing with all of these that would be a bit of a concern is I don't like doing, first models out of a gate.
Mm-hmm.
I like to see how something goes first. Mm-hmm. Then once they tweak it, then I get the next one out the gate.
This isn't a transporter. Come on.
I know. But this one I only say because like I drive a Toyota now. Mm-hmm. They're super reliable. So to me, that's what I would pick.
Gotcha. How about you, Will?
Well, I mean, the Lotus is pretty cool. But I'd probably go with the Toyota just for the reliability of it. And like Tasia said, probably not best to buy things straight out of the box. First version, V1, they're going to work out some of the bugs. But yeah, Toyota probably has some of the best reputation for reliability and build quality. And we had a Toyota van for years. My family did. That thing, it was like hard to kill. It took like 30 years before it fell apart. So,
well, if there's one thing to be said about Toyotas, it's with a few notable exceptions, is quality control, and they really pushed the idea of Kaizen manufacturing principles forward with the ongoing incremental refinements. So they just get better and better and more reliable as time goes on. And hopefully those same principles will apply to their EV offerings. So we got no love for Nissan so far. So GRAYE, Lucid Air, Lotus, Eletre, Nissan Ariya, or the Toyota letter and number salad.
Again, I'm sorry. I just want a Rivian. That's all I want. It's yeah. So can I raise a question about performance really quickly? Because it's great that you got that on the track, but is there anywhere else, any other category of products where you get into lethality? And the higher ends of performance.
You got to get to 60 miles an hour in less than 2 seconds, Gray. Come on, it's essential.
Those levels of speed are illegal. And
Don't ask, don't
we
tell.
aspire to them? Like, it seems like we're spending
we
a lot of
wanna
money
know-
engineering things that do this thing
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
not supposed to do.
Vanity
We
metrics.
want to
in a
know
sense,
we
yeah.
can do it.
Okay, can I just put a sticker on there that says it and maybe we'll feel better?
We just want to know it's there, you know?
And that's the thing, like, I don't want to take anybody's fun away. I do want to take everybody's fun away. Like, I want the planet to stop burning. Maybe we could stop making cars that go this fast because it kills people. I don't know.
Speaking of killing people,
I'm turning into Andy Rooney. What happened here?
You know, the thing about pencils is
the thing about cars that drive too fast.
Go ahead, Will.
Speaking of lethal things, did anyone see that story about the cops trying to pull over a taxi in San Francisco, and it wasn't pulling over? They were trying to pull it over, and it wouldn't pull over, and they eventually jumped out and tried to stop the driver at a light and realized there was nobody in the car, and it drove off when the light went green.
I think I saw a headline, but
we finally have reverse Robocop. Amazing. Paul Verhoeven, get on this.
Would they think it was just like a really short person?
Well, I guess they couldn't see anyone in the car. Yeah.
You've never seen a ghost whip?
San Francisco Police Department with a WTF moment.
But you can see, look at all the doodads on the car. Yep. There's no person in there.
Oh, it's Cruise too. Yeah, that's a GM autonomous driving project. And there it goes.
Bye.
Huh. Right then.
So
now it's you know, it stopped later.
Exactly. All right, let's get back on track here. What else has Elon done lately? Oh, you know.
Well, that wasn't Elon. So yeah, fair, but
no, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but one of the things that he did announce was the full self-driving beta going farther and wider across North America and eventually the world, and 10x less likely to be in an accident or fatal accident anyway. So we'll see where they're actually going to be allowed to have the enhanced self-driving, because there's still a lot of glitches. The real world is definitely tricky. So from electric cars to electric planes, this is something that it's been in, just keeps getting bounced from show to show, but just very quickly, we've talked about eVTOLs, vertical takeoff and landings vehicles. We got air taxis in New York City flying from rooftop to rooftop and to local airports. Some of them are actually electric powered, but electric planes are coming sooner than you think. So it's an article from an aviation website called AFAR talking about electric 100 seaters due out in 2026, and just all the research that's being done. Because one of the common arguments against decarbonization is like, well, we still need jet fuel, right? So if we can get, but the challenge with planes is batteries are heavy, and so there's that range issue. So I could see maybe you're doing things like air taxis, perhaps helicopters, perhaps short haul flights, but the more range you want, the bigger and heavier those batteries are going to be. So it's going to be a ways, but it's just heartening to see that research is still being done in that territory as well, because there's a lot of planes now that we're pandemic restrictions are easing and people are starting to travel more. That's another source of greenhouse gas emissions that we're all so concerned about. Now, there is another way to fly, and that's just using electricity itself. And if you haven't had enough nightmares yet, and if you've been wondering how spiders are able to make their webs, they're not necessarily using the wind. Some of them are apparently using electric fields to generate lift. So a recent study here, and I'll just get this ballooning origami spider using thin threads of spider silk to catch electric field currents and air currents. So when you're walking, it's like they say everyone is super cool until they walk through a spider web they don't notice. So there's some fascinating video clips here on how spiders can get around using air currents, or in some cases electric currents as well. And it's all fun and games until they end up in your bed.
Okay.
Enough said.
But if you want to instead go high as a kite or as a balloon, as the case may be, you can get inside a luxury balloon that serves martinis at the edge of space. So as opposed to paying $500,000 or more to get into an actual rocket ship, Space Perspective is planning $125,000 a seat ride, which is heavy on the ambiance. So you can gaze down at Earth. So instead from a rocket, from a balloon. Asia, would you choose this or a rocket ride?
I got some questions. How stable is this balloon when pressure happens? And yeah, I don't know. I don't want either, guys. It freaks me out. I don't want to be up there. Like my feet firmly planted on the ground. You understand?
Okay, but look at this pod just hanging there from a balloon.
That looks cooler, and it seems gentler. So if you're going to make me pick, I'd pick that, I guess.
Momentous space correspondent GRAYE, is this the preferred way to get to the edge of space rather than paying 3 times as much to go on a rocket?
No, rocket's the only way to fly, really. Can honestly, like, 150 people just lost their houses, lost their homes a block away from me, and we're talking about $125,000 space rides in a balloon. Something's broken here, guys. What we're here for. Something's broken here. It's awesome. It's great. And it'd be one of those things where, like, you'd hope that this company is, funneling that money back into space research so that we can get off this rock just in case something does decide to turn it into slag. But yeah, this one's hard to take today.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Will, I think I can guess what your answer is going to be, but please let us have it.
That's a no from me, dog.
Well, that's how you survive, is making calculated risk decisions. So fair enough. Speaking of space tourism, a SpaceX tourism mission just arrived at the International Space Station. I'm not sure if any of you caught the docking. All that was missing was some of the classical music from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which so here's NASA again collaborating with SpaceX. So SpaceX was basically in charge until it docked, and then NASA took over authority of this mission. And there were 4 civilians on board who weren't astronauts per se, but do actually have work to do on this 10-day mission.
Rumor has it that they haven't spoken to the Russian guys since they got there.
Really? I thought the Russian fellas hadn't left yet. I thought they were leaving a week or 2 ago.
No,
there's still some on board.
Yeah, okay. I think so.
Because there was
it's squirrel away. It's I was getting to spaces they shouldn't be in.
So yeah, we're back to Elon here. We've got SpaceX with their rocket technology, and now they're docking with the ISS. $55 million per seat for this 10-day trip, but plus their labor, because they're doing a little bit of work while they're there too.
We're going to find out that this is actually the Prestige, right? Like we talked about good Elon and bad Elon,
right?
It actually is the Prestige. There's got to be 2 of them. There has to be 2 of them. That actually makes sense. It's why he's on again, off again with Grimes.
Gotcha. I see what you did there. Oh, you mean like literally?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not baby. Oh, sorry, it's bad baby making baby. It's also bad baby making joke. On again, off again. Never mind. Next topic.
Nope. Back it up.
Nope. All right. Well, with all these things we're doing, EV stuff aside, but there's a carbon footprint to the EV manufacturer. Some of these are still fuel powered, like the rockets. But there's an initiative recently from Stripe, Alphabet, Meta, Shopify, and McKinsey launching a new carbon removal initiative. Now, this is one of many that are ongoing around the world at the moment, including carbon engineering just up here in Squamish, whereby, especially given some of the contents of the latest UN report on climate change, and hey, maybe we're past the point of no return, so maybe we're looking at mitigation and adaptation as much as possible. So these companies mentioned have just made a near $1 billion commitment to purchase captured carbon, because that's the thing with all these carbon capture projects, is actually making a market for it. And what a lot of these facilities do is filter the CO2 out of the air and then make fuel out of them too. So then the circle is complete. But again, nice to see some tech companies getting in there, and I wouldn't be surprised if companies like Apple get in there sometime as well, as opposed to just doing carbon offsets, and also greenifying their supply chain too. So good news. But from decarbonizing, I thought we would decarbonize in our own way when we're still driving on our exploding dinosaur powered vehicles, and point our audience to some tips on how to save money on gas. And then also, is there an optimal driving speed that saves gas and money? So in the first article, and both of these are from Wired, it recommends doing things like using apps like Gas Buddy, which can be handy. Why not save a few cents here and there when you do have to fill up? That's one of the things that we've, since as mentioned previously, we've got ourselves a little short range EFI for city driving. We were up in Kamloops for a family memorial service on the weekend, and that's when we brought out the exploding dinosaurs car to drive, and because it's longer range, because we don't have a long range EV at the moment, but on premium gas and a V6, that thing purred on the highway when it's actually more fuel efficient than I was expecting. So we're, if you are lucky enough to have the two vehicle lifestyle, and the shorter range EVs that get you 100 to 150 kilometers can, cover 95% of your driving like it's doing for us. Of course, driving an EV on a highway, longer trips is trickier because there's not as much regenerative braking going on. So that's one place where the gas-powered vehicles still come in handy. So if you are still have a gas-powered vehicle, which most folks still do, it's nice to be able to save gas where you can. This article also talks about rewards programs as well, where you can get a little bit of rebates because, with the supply chain issues, oil prices going up around the world due to conflicts and whatnot, it's nice to be able to save a little bit of money. But the other thing I wanted to point, especially the three of you as well, is there's this calculator in the second article talking about, is there an optimal driving speed that saves gas and money? You may recall in the 70s during the energy crisis then, many of the highways in the US and elsewhere, they were instituting speed limits of 55 miles an hour for maximum fuel efficiency. And, even Ted Nugent, such as he is, had a song called "I Can't Drive 55." So there's a link from this article that gives you a calculator where you plug in information like your your car's gas mileage, your hourly rate of pay, because one of the reasons some people go faster is because they got to get somewhere, because their time is money, blah, 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 blah. So I would encourage you to check this out and plug in your own numbers in there. It's fascinating. I have to admit that for both the EV and the gas-powered car, it was telling us our optimum speed was 80 miles per hour, which is like 120 kilometers per hour. So I've made a point of trying to drive that fast in the city as well.
Perfect.
What could possibly go wrong?
Just quickly starting with you, Will, what sort of things do you do to try to save a little bit of money when you are you've got two vehicles in your family, and in terms of vehicle choice or where you fill up, apps you use, the way you drive, et cetera, et cetera? What are some things that you do there?
Well, I mean, as you guys probably all know, I try to use my car as little as possible.
Well, that's a good start. Reduce. That's the first R.
Reduce. So I walk most places. I walk as much as possible, even to get groceries and things like that. So I do a lot of walking. I usually use my car to drive to work myself, which, isn't maybe going with other people and carpooling, but I have carpooled in the past when I worked at a electronics retailer. I used to carpool with a coworker. But we use my wife's car for the most part because my car uses expensive gas.
There you go.
So I also use my car as little as possible. So I try to cut down the amount that I'm using my car, reduce it, and then where I can, we use my wife's car because it's a little bit better on gas
for sure,
and cheaper gas.
Now, Gray, where you live is walkable. When it's safe, of course. So you may not have to rely on your vehicle quite so much. I know you're walking distance to work. When you do head out for camping and otherwise, what sort of things do you do to try to, save where you can?
We don't.
No, you just pedal to the metal.
Go with the flow of traffic. Really, yeah. That's kind of it. We're not. Ray is a much more astute driver than I am. I think she's got the need for speed. I tend to drive like my grandmother, and she died at 55. So,
oh boy,
miles per hour.
Take that, Ted Nugent.
Right. Yeah. Here's the thing: is like when you're camping, and when we're camping, we load that thing up. It's a mini countryman, but you wouldn't know it by the amount of stuff that we can fit into it. So, like, fuel economy really is just, well, this is the one thing with the roof rack that I've got on there from Cabela's. If you go over 130, it makes a whistling noise that sounds like you're going to die. So we keep it under 130.
Gotcha. Now, Tasia, where you are is a lot more wide open spaces, and I suspect a lot more kind of car culture, just to perhaps lack of walkability because of the urban sprawl and the like. So what do you do car choice wise, driving style wise, penny pinching wise, especially with gas prices the way they are nowadays?
I'm pretty lucky. I don't have to drive too much, so I avoid it.
Working from home lifestyle.
Yeah, but I'm a gas buddy person. So typically I fill up at Costco because one of my clients is down that way. So if I'm down that way already and then I need to fill up, it's perfect because it's always the cheapest gas. However, days like yesterday where I'm not going that direction, like it would be a waste of time and gas to go that way, I use Gas Buddy and pop over to the closest station that's cheapest.
I love me some Gas Buddy, and so if anyone is not currently using it, you can download it for iOS and Android, and it will show you either in a list or on a map of the gas stations closest to you and the prices for regular fuel at the pumps. And then if you need premium, of course, that's going to be more, but it gives you an idea.
You can pick now prices. Too.
Oh, nice. And that's all updated by users. So you can go and confirm if the price is correct or update it yourself. So it's a great example of crowdsourcing in action there. And it's almost always current. And I've updated a couple of times myself, or at least confirmed prices. So I'm glad that it's working for you. All right.
Yesterday I noticed it asked me to pick premium or regular, and I was like, oh, sweet. And then because I don't recall that from last time, but it's a good little update.
Gotcha. All right. So as we coast toward the end of our program here, there's something I've been hanging on to a little bit until Gray was back, and we got to squeeze it in. So there was, as Star Trek Picard season 2 continues, they've already announced that there's going to be a season 3, and it's going to be the final season. And of course, the teaser is unavailable that I was going to play for you. But here it is here. And I've been enjoying season 2 of Picard myself. I think even more so than season 1. I think now that we're familiar with the characters and there's some stuff that's going on. Tasia, I think this is where you check out for we'll keep this as brief as possible. But Gray, thoughts on season 2 of Picard so far? And the other question, they hinted in the teaser of some for season 3 of some possible characters from Next Generation that might be returning. Who are you most excited about, or who would you like to see that they haven't teased yet?
Moriarty.
Oh, wouldn't that have to be in the holodeck?
No, right? Because he was set free in his own little
right.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. Moriarty.
Deep cut. Nicely done.
Yeah, thank you.
And your thoughts on season 2 so far?
I love that they rebooted Star Trek 4.
Just waiting for the whales.
Yeah, that's great. Captain, there be whales here. A keyboard. How quaint.
Computer. Hello, computer.
Yeah, I saw this and started to cry. It's interesting because we got triple dose of Brent Spiner. Over these 3 seasons. We've had, good Spiner, bad Spiner, and I guess this is going to be neutral Spiner. But I think it would work if he's the voice of the computer. I think that would be cool.
Oh,
I'd like that.
So they've in the teaser, they alluded to, of course, Patrick Stewart returning, but LeVar Burton, who was Geordie LaForge, Michael Dorn, as
who is not
Worf.
a merry man.
Exactly. Jonathan Frakes, who has appeared in season Was he in season 1?
Yes, straddling chairs.
Yeah, exactly. Gates McFadden, so Dr. Crusher, Marina Sirtis, who is, her name is
Commander Troy.
Commander Troy, and Brent Spiner, of course, as Commander Data, and or I mean, one of the, so either Noonien soon or this earlier soon. I can't remember. Sorry.
There was B4, which Data has had consciousness downloaded into.
Oh, yeah.
And
so many
Lore
options
is still out there somewhere.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought Lore died. No.
No, crystalline entity. He's fine.
So, Will, have you been keeping up with Star Trek Picard season 2?
So I watched the first episode, and we haven't gotten to watch the rest. Other things popped up. Like the thing I'm going to mention, and then also we were finishing the Dropout, the series about Elizabeth Holmes. So it's right next on the list of things to watch.
Gotcha. So, who of that list that we talked about, or someone that you haven't seen, who are you most excited about that is going to appear in season 3, or that you wish would appear in season 3?
I've always been a big Geordie LaForge fan. He's always been one of my favorite characters. When I was a kid, I just liked the look of the hairband put across his eyes. But
some Doctor Who level costume design there.
Yeah. I always thought that was really cool, and I always appreciated that he was more of a gentler soul in many ways. He wasn't always the most sexy character or dynamic character, but I thought him and Data had some of the best B stories of all of the Next Generation.
They can bring back Geordie's love interest, Dr. Leia Brahms.
Oh, yes.
That would be interesting.
Not the hologram one, the real one.
All right. Tasia, is someone totally disinterested in this topic want to take a stab at it? Who are you most interested in joining Picard season 3?
I like LeVar Burton as an actor in person.
There you go. You may know him from Reading Rainbow.
Butterfly in the sky. I can fly twice as high.
Take a look.
I myself am waiting for the return of Dr. Pulaski.
Oh, yes. No, please. No.
Yes. No, she, honestly.
Leave her buried.
She was one of the best elements of the show, and you know it. She is the person who pushed Data to become what he became.
Yeah. Seriously, though.
Without Pulaski, there's no Data.
Leave her buried in shame.
No. She was excellent.
Seriously, though, speaking of buried, I would, given that we're playing with time and different timelines here anyway, I'm holding out for a Tasha Yar resurrection.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Denise Crosby. Yep, she was looking good in Dexter. So, all right.
So, quick pick of the week, Will.
So I almost used this one last week, but Moon Knight. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. We're only 2 episodes in, but I am enjoying it. I highly recommend it. It is a little bit of what's going on. I benefited a little bit from having read some of the books, but a lot of this is new material as well. It plays off some things that we know, but it's also playing with different storylines and things that go on and different characters. A friend of mine who has not read any of the books, I talked to him on the weekend, and he just said, "What is going on?" I spend most of my time trying to figure out what is going on. He didn't even get some of the stuff in the first episode till about halfway through. Then he started figuring it out. So I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a really interesting look at some of these themes. It's a little bit like, I don't know, Fight Club mixed with The Mummy, mixed with some other things. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I hope you guys are able to check it out.
I'm up to date on it myself. Both Stephanie and I are enjoying it. And if you haven't seen much of Oscar Isaac as an actor and haven't appreciated him yet, by watching this, you will definitely appreciate his acting chops, because he's playing 2 different characters in one body, and I think tour de force might be overstating it, but he's doing a remarkable job. So that's the latest for those keeping score at home from in the Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney Plus.
There's 3 characters in that body.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, when we think about it, but he's not acting the 3rd.
No.
There's another one.
Oscar Isaacs.
Oh, okay. I'm not. Am I there yet?
Take a look with the reflections.
Okay, we'll have to revisit that. But then, of course, we have what's his face doing the voice of the
God. He's great. Yeah,
and his F. Murray Abraham.
Yeah,
from all sorts of things, including Homeland and Mythic Quest.
Amadeus.
That's right. Yeah. Salieri.
Oh, wow. Talk about deep cuts.
What's your pick for us this week?
Forgive me if I've told you this before or I just dreamt telling you guys about the show.
I don't think so.
Okay, because I don't know how... Well, I guess I missed a lot of episodes, so I wasn't able to tell you guys. But we binged Murderville on Netflix so hard. It's like 6 or 7 episodes. It's like short. But basically, it's an entirely non-scripted improv show. The only things that are scripted are they know where the storyline has to go. So
kind of like a Curb Your Enthusiasm thing, yeah. Okay.
But like even more so unscripted. So Will Arnett plays kind of like a washed up detective. Each episode has a new celebrity that comes in as his new partner and they have to solve a crime. So like you're also watching for the clues along with it to see if you can solve it. Because by the end of the episode, they have to pick who did it. And then you get to see if they're right or not. Couple of standout episodes. Conan O'Brien was one for sure. And Kumail Nanjiani. It's so good. But it really was so not scripted that like these celebrities didn't even see Will Arnett or anybody before shooting. They were put in their trailer. They got their makeup done. Somebody would lead them like backstage and you could kind of hear like what's going on. But then they'd say, okay, when we tap you on the shoulder, go in. And they were like in the scene, like right in, walked into it, had no clue what was happening. And they just have to go with it. And it's brilliant. It's so funny.
Now, is it played as like a dramedy, like comedy/drama, or is it played as like a reality TV show?
It's comedy, but you're going along with it, and like it's fun to try to make the guests along with the celebrity because you're as clueless as the celebrity is. Like they're in it also just watching this stuff happen, and that's the only scripted points are points that like the producers know we have to give this clue or we have to say this about this person in order to be a suspect. But like, other than that, none of it is scripted. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
Wow. I haven't even heard of it. I have to check that one out. Good pick.
I hadn't heard of it either.
It's great. You guys will love it.
How about you, Gray?
So I've got 2 for you here because they actually fit really well together. We watched them last Saturday, I think. Motherless Brooklyn. So if you want to share the window here.
Say that again.
Motherless Brooklyn. I've got it up here for you.
Okay, yeah.
Well, and so this was Edward Norton's bit of a passion project. He actually bought the rights to the book before the book was even published, and it's sort of a film noir about a detective agency that's kind of dealing with some real estate-ish stuff. It's and he plays a character with a stutter, who a lot of people call a freak show. And so there's just some really great stuff going on. Alec Baldwin gives tour de force as what I believe was actually an impression of Fred Trump, and just really, really neat. And where this goes is pretty fantastic. And I like to think this is the rise, and this is the answer to that was Nightmare Alley. This was up for an Oscar. You've got Bradley Cooper, just a sordid tale of seedy people doing sad things, and it's about another freak show. So these things really kind of fit together, and the idea of looking at what people are doing and seeing their behaviors, and then either using them to reveal or to conceal. These 2 films work really, really well together. And
so
I apologize for the second one.
So Nightmare Alley, directed by Guillermo del Toro. And where were you able to view that and the other program?
Nightmare Alley is on Disney Plus. Motherless Brooklyn we had to rent because it was on Netflix until March 31st, and we started it at March 31st at 11, and we missed half of it.
Oh no! Did it actually shut off on you?
We went to bed.
Oh, okay.
We were tired.
Gotcha. And Tasia's pick, Murderville, is also on Netflix. So we'll include all those links in the show notes. Great picks this week, folks. Oh, I guess maybe you want me to tell you about a little something? Yeah. Mine is of course, I forgot to put it in the notes, and it's a video I watched on YouTube called Harder Hard Drives. And this is hard drives we didn't want or need. And it's from a creator called Sucker Pinch. And what this fellow does is figure out really esoteric ways of storing data. And in this video, he figures out ways to store data in the internet itself through a series of pings, which very low information sort of messages to almost every computer in the world. And he figures out the math of anything that's got an IP address and what he could send out there, and just actually reading and writing to using these pings, like, so everything's kind of out in the ether. And if you shut your computer off, it's not going to be there to receive the ping, and you lose your data. So he grades all the types of harder hard drives on a number of factors, including reliability and permanence and whatnot. One of the other things he did was storing data in a series of virtualized Tetris games.
Oh.
So using the blocks as blocks of data, which was kind of wild in itself. And then he also grades them on harm to society, power consumption, speed, longevity, and so on. And then the other thing he did was using a bunch of discarded COVID tests as data storage as well. So, if you really want to nerd out, this is about half an hour, but it's fascinating the lengths that this fellow goes to figure out how to store data in needlessly complex and obscure ways. So
it's a good concept.
Yeah. So that's, and I just admire what he did to do these proofs of concept. It's wild. So that's called Harder Hard Drives, and you can find that on YouTube, and the creator's name is Sucker Pinch. Speaking of YouTube, we have our one of our very own YouTube creators here, Tasia. You're going to tell us about your latest offering before we say goodbye?
Oh, yes. How to download all of your Google data. So all your emails in Gmail. And that's all I will tell you about it. You have to go watch it to find out how to do it.
Okay, first question, why? Why would anyone ever want to download all their data from Gmail?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Some people do it for security. Some people do it if they're going to close their Gmail and they want to take everything off of there. Some people just like backups of things. Maybe the harder hard drive guy would want to put his Gmail on a backup.
Fair enough, yeah.
But there are a lot of reasons. And you can actually set it to like do it kind of every 6 months for like, I think 2 years, something like that. And then you like have to retell it to do it if you forget how to do that. But the interesting thing is, like, a lot of people just think you can just like download it and then you just have it. You have to be able to read the files. Mm-hmm. So I walk people through how to do that as well.
Very cool. I guess the larger question is why anyone would want to use Gmail in the first place, but that's me bringing my priors.
I mean, why would you not?
All right. Well, thanks very much so you can check out Tasia's video. Where, Tasia?
At youtube.com/Tasia Custodi.
Check it out. And you can find out more about Momentous at Momentus.tv, Twitter.com/MomentousTV, Facebook.com/MomentousTV, Instagram.com/Momentous.tv. And on YouTube, search my name, find a playlist, and you'll find Momentous there. We've got a few playlists there. Thanks for joining us. So we promised you some non-Elon Musk content, and there you go. That whole last few minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
We'll try to be Elon free next week. We got so much,
please.
And we're getting into more seasons. I think there's going to be more events from
Ooh.
Soon it'll be like Google keynotes and more Samsung keynotes.
Nice.
In June we'll have Apple WWDC and so on. But it's still mid-May. I mean, we're still getting snow and hail today. I mean, here in Vancouver, it's like. But the three of you, Will, Gray, Tasia, and all of you at home, we hope your week is truly momentous.